Dr. Vivian McAlister is with us this morning. He's a noted transplant surgeon at University Hospital in London, Ontario, but he's also a decorated veteran, a retired military surgeon. Let me give you the numbers: 6 tours, 4 in Afghanistan with the Canadian mission, 1 in Iraq, 1 in Haiti. I have to tell you, he's a longtime family friend and colleague, but I thought I know his story and his perspective, and I know it's an interesting one to share with you today. So, Dr. McAlister, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Heather, and thank you.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you here. You were listening to Lindsay's report. I found it particularly touching today. What did you think of that tribute to the veterans?
Well, I think it's beautiful, and it's amazing that out of such awful thing as war, there can arise beauty. It reminds me very much of John McCrae's poem and of the support that the Poppy Ladies, as they were originally called, gave to veterans. It's a continuation of that tradition.
Now, you've gone right into the nub of the matter, why I wanted to talk to you about so many things. There are so many things to talk about with you, but you've raised the poppy. It's the 100th anniversary of the poppy as a symbol of remembrance. What does it mean to you?
Well, I think what it means to me is probably what it means to everyone. But I have had a thought, to reflect upon it. And first that comes to mind, it's a very resilient symbol, and its meaning hasn't really changed much over the 100 years that we've been using it as the symbol of remembrance. And I think there are two very simple things that it does. One is that it honors those who committed themselves to the point of death or serious injury on our behalf. And the second is that it seeks to support those whom they've left behind, the families and the injured who returned home. And those two principles continue right to today. And you come at this, you mentioned John McCrae. I love the parallels. I mean, you're a decorated veteran yourself. He, a military surgeon, you were a military surgeon. And when you think of the poppy, you go right to In Flanders Fields. And then now you keep this alive with something else that you do in London, which is a very much important work on medical military history. So tell me about the convergence there and perhaps how you view the symbol, but also the poem. Quite right. I mean, it's a magnificent poem as a work of art itself. Very complex, actually. And, while he said take up our quarrel with the foe, some might think of it as a belligerent request. But in actual fact, most of us feel it's to maintain the principles upon which he committed himself in the First World War. And it continues all the way to today. So, as you do study or look at military history, you can't help but reflect upon our own circumstance and try and do better.
As I mentioned, Dr. McAlister runs the Office of Military Academic Medicine, so that is a key point of interest to him. But as you can see in these pictures, this is a lived experience as well. This is not just an academic study. You made the decision to join the armed forces late in your life, and you served as a military surgeon, as I mentioned, in those 6 tours. Why?
Well, I first experienced this as a civilian and had an outside look when I deployed to Afghanistan in an augmentative role in 2007. And what I saw there was a deeply committed team. It didn't matter who you are or where you came from. You lived by a code, and it was mission, team, and then self. And this team silently worked to undertake remarkable tasks, and I couldn't help but admire them, and I sought to join them. And basically that's why I joined up and sought to be part of the team and to continue that tradition as much as I can.
And your perspective then on this question, I think, will be interesting. One of the things that maybe veterans will be bearing in mind is the Afghanistan mission for Canada, particularly because of what has happened in recent months. You know, you hear from a number of veterans about how it all came to an end with the U.S. pullout in the summertime and then the Taliban regaining control so quickly. And some veterans have expressed disappointment in that, the feeling that perhaps the contribution was pointless and in vain in the end. Where do you fall on that?
I have two thoughts on it. I did read about Mrs. Eichenbaum, whose son was killed, and she was defending the mission in Iran, and that's in Afghanistan, and that's not her task. It's something we should be doing straight away. The war is not over. Battles are lost, but wars are won, and it's really the peace that needs to be won in Afghanistan. And our veterans have created the environment where this can happen in the future. It's going to take careful strategy, but we can win this peace so that Afghanistan will be a happier place in years to come. Our withdrawal was 10 years before the Americans, and I think if we are disappointed, it's that we didn't prepare well enough for the evacuation of our colleagues.
The people who were left behind. So
yeah.
Those who sacrificed, served, suffered in the name of obtaining peace, that will be on the minds of Canadians tomorrow as we gather at cenotaphs and think for Remembrance Day. What will you be thinking of, and what would you like us to be thinking of?
Well, I'll be thinking about colleagues, people I know and our friends now that I looked after who were very seriously injured in Afghanistan. They've left limbs and parts of their body behind. They've left their minds behind. And this commitment is worthy of us, and it will reap positive rewards for us and for the people of Afghanistan. I'll be thinking mainly about them. You know, Sir Arthur Currie put it the best of all in a pithy phrase. He said, they served till death, why not we?
They served till death, why not we? Thank you, Dr. McAlister. We'll be thinking of that tomorrow, too. I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, Heather.